People often ask me why I like Japan so much, and honestly, it's a surprisingly difficult question to answer because it's not really about Tokyo Tower or Mount Fuji or any particular attraction. It's actually all about the small things, the small details of everyday life, the train ride home, the convenience store that is around the corner, the quiet neighborhood streets, the feeling of being able to spend an afternoon doing nothing at all and somehow still enjoying it. After traveling around Japan for many years and even spending 3 months living there, I've realized that what I appreciate most isn't any single place, it's the overall feeling. A feeling that life is just a little bit smoother, a little bit calmer, a little bit more comfortable. So in this video, I want to share some of the small things that make Japan feel so comfortable to me. One of the first things I notice whenever I arrive in Japan is that things tend to work the way you expect them to. Trains usually arrive on time. Signs are generally clear. Convenience stores are everywhere. Payment systems are easy to use. Directions are usually straightforward. Of course, no country is perfect. Delays happen, mistakes happen, but compared to many other places that I visited, there's often less friction in everyday life, and that's something that I really appreciate. When you are not constantly dealing with small inconveniences, you have more energy to enjoy the things around you. It may not sound exciting, but comfort is often created by removing small frustrations rather than adding exciting experiences. One other thing that many people notice is how safe Japan feels. Now, that doesn't mean crime doesn't exist, and it definitely doesn't mean that you should stop using common sense. But compared to many other places that I've traveled to, Japan often feels remarkably safe. I've walked around neighborhoods late at night. I've taken late trains. I've wandered around unfamiliar areas, and more often than not, I felt comfortable doing so. One thing that always stands out to me is how many people are simply going about their everyday lives, walking home, buying groceries, waiting for trains, grabbing dinner after work, even late into the evening. One more thing that surprises many visitors is the culture around lost property. If you were to leave behind something by accident, there's a surprisingly good chance it will eventually find its way to a lost and found counter. Nothing is guaranteed, of course, but the fact that people even expect that possibility says a lot. And I think this sense of safety plays a big role in why Japan feels so comfortable. Public spaces in Japan often feel surprisingly pleasant to spend time in. Train stations, public toilets, shopping malls, streets, parks. They are not necessarily luxurious, but they are often clean, organized, and well maintained. One thing that I've noticed is that many shared spaces feel respected. People generally queue patiently. They return trays after eating. They avoid creating unnecessary mess. And because of this, public spaces often feel welcoming rather than stressful. Again, it's not one big thing, it's hundreds of small things working together. One other thing that I've always appreciated about Japan is how normal it feels to do things alone. Eating alone, shopping alone, traveling alone, going to a cafe alone, spending an entire day by yourself. None of these things feel unusual. In some places, being alone can sometimes feel awkward. You might feel like people are wondering why you are by yourself. But in Japan, solo activities are incredibly common. Walk into a ramen shop and you see people eating alone. Visit a cafe and you see people studying alone. Take a train and you see people quietly enjoying their own time. And because it's so normal, nobody really pays attention. I think that's something I appreciate a lot. There's very little pressure to constantly be doing things with other people. Spending time alone isn't seen as strange. It's simply another way of spending your day. Some of my favorite days in Japan have been days where I absolutely had no plans. I would take a train somewhere, walk around, visit a bookstore, grab lunch, explore a neighborhood, and head home, all by myself. And somehow, those days often end up being some of the most enjoyable days. One more thing that I've noticed is that everyday errands somehow feel more enjoyable in Japan. Going to a supermarket, visiting a pharmacy, browsing through a bookstore, picking up something from a convenience store. These are not activities that people would describe as exciting, but in Japan, I often find myself looking forward to them. Maybe it's because stores are usually clean and organized. Maybe it's because products are displayed thoughtfully. Maybe it's because everything feels efficient and easy to navigate. Whatever the reason might be, even ordinary tasks can feel surprisingly pleasant. I remember spending far more time than necessary wandering around supermarkets during my 3 month stay. Not because I had to buy anything, but simply because I enjoyed being there. And I think that's a small but important part of why Japan feels comfortable. Everyday life doesn't feel like something that you're rushing through. Sometimes it becomes part of the experience itself. What I also appreciate is the level of consideration people often show to others. Again, this isn't something unique to Japan. You will find considerate people everywhere, but it's something that I notice quite often when I'm here. People queue patiently, they avoid speaking loudly on trains, they try not to inconvenience other people, they return trays after meals, they stand to one side on escalators, they generally try to keep shared spaces pleasant for everybody. And while these behaviors might seem small on their own, they have a cumulative effect. They make public spaces feel calmer, more predictable, more comfortable. Of course, nobody is perfect, but when many people make small efforts to be considerate, daily life becomes just a little bit easier for everyone. As I spent more time in Japan, what surprised me was how much walking I ended up doing. And strangely enough, I enjoyed it. Walking to the station, walking through neighborhoods, walking between shops, walking home at the end of the day. In many places, walking can feel like a chore, but in Japan, it often feels like part of the experience. The streets are generally pedestrian friendly. There are interesting things to see: small restaurants, local shops, quiet residential areas, unexpected discoveries. Some of my favorite memories are not major tourist attractions. They are simply moments that I stumble upon while walking somewhere. And I think that's one reason why Japan feels so enjoyable to explore. The journey itself often becomes part of the destination. And perhaps the biggest reason why Japan feels comfortable to me is this: the ordinary moments feel meaningful. Some of my favorite memories in Japan are not famous landmarks. They are not major attractions. They are not things that appear in travel brochures. They are moments like sitting in a cafe, walking through a supermarket, journaling in the evening, taking a quiet train ride, cooking dinner, browsing through a bookstore, visiting a betting center, watching the sun go down after an uneventful day. None of these moments sound particularly exciting, but somehow they become memorable. And I think that's because Japan creates an environment where ordinary life can feel enjoyable. You're not constantly searching for the next big attraction. Sometimes you're simply enjoying where you are right now. And honestly, that's one of the things that I love most about Japan. Japan isn't perfect. No country is. Every place has its own strengths and weaknesses. When people ask me why I enjoy Japan so much, I don't usually think about famous landmarks. I think about the small things: the trains, the neighborhoods, the convenience stores, the public spaces. the feeling of safety, the ability to spend time alone, the simple joy of everyday life. None of these things are particularly dramatic, but together they create an environment that feels surprisingly comfortable. And I think this is why I keep coming back. Not because Japan is perfect, but because for me, it feels like a place where life flows just a little bit more smoothly. And sometimes that's more than enough.